All right. Hello, everyone. I am in the same place. I'm going to be here for a while longer, but the background looks different because the camera is facing the opposite direction. This is the rest of our living room. This is where I usually sit and work at this desk. And I can also show you these three little statues in front of my tea set. So these three are the good subjects in my mind because they're all doing the right thing, applying self-control and continence. And then this little guy here, he is what I call the disidentified subject or the indifferent subject, person who doesn't really fit his tradition. But he's also not angry. he's not the bad subject, but he's also not the good subject. That's a reference to my ongoing conversation with Glenn Wallace, and this is among his work. This is the one book that I think has relevance for that. Cruel Theory, Sublime Practice. Today, I want to talk about faith, the gift of faith, the fullness of faith, and the poverty of disbelief. And my thoughts, being occupied with these thoughts the past couple of days has been triggered by thinking about a person that I knew in Toronto, because we are planning to move to Toronto within a year from now. I am just subconsciously thinking about people that I know in Toronto, people that I can get back in touch with. And one of the people that I thought of was a person that I met soon before leaving Toronto in the summer of 2015. It was a summer where I was finishing up my dissertation, preparing for my PhD defense, final oral defense, and the summer that I taught for the first time a course on history of psychology. So I was living in an apartment, and downstairs there was a Tim Hortons coffee shop, unsurprisingly in Canada. And in that Tim Hortons coffee shop, which was open 24 hours a day, one evening when I went to get a cup of tea and relax, there was a young man sitting there. Usually I don't talk to strangers, but the guy was sitting with his drink and with a book, reading a book. The book was The Problem of Empathy by Edith Stein. And I just couldn't help myself. I had to go and say hello and start talking. One of the things that I also really enjoy doing is to, when possible, when there is mutual interest, is the desire to form informal study groups. And we ended up deciding to read the Logical Investigations. Somehow we ended up reading Husserl's Logical Investigations, who was for a time he was a supervisor to Edith Stein, Husserl. The first volume, and we covered a substantial portion of it together in 2-3 meetings later on. Something that he told me was, that young man, was that he was, among other things, he was preparing to be ordained into priesthood, Catholic priesthood. But he was not a priest at the time, so I didn't do anything differently. I didn't treat him any differently compared to other people that I would meet and talk with. And a couple of days ago, I looked him up online, and he is a priest now. There were videos of him with the priesthood clothing. Is it uniform? And I don't know how to interact with him now. I sent him an email to his old email, and I'm not sure whether or not I addressed him correctly, appropriately, with the right kind of politeness and manner. But anyways, seeing him, thinking about him, triggered another line of thinking about faith, and how faith is something that enables and acts as, having faith is kind of like having a ground in my mind. It's like having a ground to do further things with that faith. Having beliefs serves like the scaffold for further exploration, for further questions arise. Once we believe in God, we can ask questions about the nature of God. If we have a belief in an afterlife, a personal afterlife, then questions arise. If you don't have such a belief, then questions will not arise. So in that way, faith is a scaffold because it extends human experience. In that sense, it is a kind of richness, and not having faith is a kind of poverty because it disables us. It disallows or prohibits certain extensions, certain explorations, certain questions and answers. So being in faith, I'm thinking about what it means to be in faith and what it means to be out of faith. And I had another personal encounter. I know I'm not the only person with this experience. There are a lot of us in our generations, people my age, more or less my age, for whom faith is embodied in previous generations, and we encountered faith, a faith that is very pure, relatively much more pure and much more lived, much more practical and much more one with who we are. It's like intertwined with a person, not something that is in front of us and you have to look at, examine and re-examine skeptically or devote to as an outside entity, something outside, as an object of attention. For me, encountering that kind of pureness was, like many of us, as I said, was with my interactions with previous generations, especially my maternal grandmother, who I saw day after day for many years praying. And I was around, I loved watching her pray. I grew up as a Muslim, and my grandmother also Muslim. And Muslim prayers are done in Arabic. And it was so endearing watching her there were certain words and certain verses that she mispronounced, but she mispronounced them very consistently. So you knew you would expect that mispronunciation from her. It wasn't really mispronunciation. After a while, it would be her version of the prayer. And as you probably know, Muslim prayer involves standing up and then bowing and then kneeling. It involves changes in posture, very, very different postures throughout one session of praying. And she had some problem with her leg after some years. So she could not do the full range of movements anymore. She could only do a limited version of the range, using a small table in front of her. And I saw all the transformations from the full, formal, ordinary way of doing the prayer to the point where it was really more and more completely her version because of what she was able to do and what she was not able to do. So that was, to me, that was like a gift that she had. And even though I didn't share what she believed, but I was really on her side. I didn't feel like she's on another side. So I was always slightly, even though I was always slightly skeptical, I did encounter the new wave of the new atheists when I moved to Canada, and it was very influential in my thinking. I had a full-fledged atheist phase, and even though I don't identify myself as an atheist now, I would also say that I'm not an atheist. Because generally speaking, I don't think you can ever go back. That feeling of nostalgia that I have with regard to my memories of my grandmother, who has now passed away, the feeling of nostalgia to go back to her, to go back and join her and to forget. Maybe it's a nostalgia about that. It's a desire to forget some things. That's impossible. I cannot go back in time. I cannot go back to that place, but I can go forward. The question for me arises about what is that faith that is gone? What is it replaced with? What is it that I can replace it with? One approach would be to take a very logical step-by-step back and cautiously, one cautious step after another, like walking in a dark room, trying to navigate a way back into faith and like protecting it through some kind of intellectual rigor. But I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't feel like that should be the path towards faith. So my alternative is something that is inspired, almost completely copied by Laurel, the way he describes the one. The one is, according to this way of thinking, completely unknown and unknowable, in principle unknowable. It is foreclosed. It is something that is causing us, it is something that is giving rise to us, but we cannot know it. It's kind of like, I imagine being in a stream that is moving forward, pushing everything and everyone forward. This powerful, strong stream going in one direction, and we're all moving with it, and I am moving with it. And the force of it is so strong that I cannot turn back and look and see what is behind me, and where is it coming from, how this is being caused. I can only look ahead. I can only look and see what is in front of me. So it is that it is akin to a pain that comes and goes, or a joke that comes and goes, and what we see is the ouch or the laughter. This is what comes next, what comes after, and we are in poverty. We are out of faith about specific claims or descriptions that we could apply to what caused it, the God, the one, or the pain that caused the ouch, or the joke or the funny moment that caused the laughter. So on the one hand, I do feel like I want to go back to something akin to what my grandmother had, but at the same time, I know that that's impossible for me anymore. She had a gift. She had a gift of her certainty, and one way I can think about it is that the gift was taken away from me with my encounter with the new atheists and my own thinking, my own exploration. But I can also think of it as having more gifts. I have more to deal with now. I have lots of things to take stock of, and say, okay, I have this position I can think about. I can also adopt this position. I can also sympathize with that other position. I can empathize with a Muslim. I can empathize with maybe not a fundamentalist Muslim. I can also empathize with a Christian. I can also empathize with an atheist or an agnostic. The challenge here, of course, is when I have people in my life like the young man, the young priest that I referred to in the beginning. Question is how to conduct myself, knowing that we are on different sides. We are on different sides, and can I assume that the other person also empathizes with me, or just looks at me as being in the wrong? I don't know. What I have in mind, it may be close to what some theologians in the past have said, or have said better, or more accurately, more precisely. If that's the case, if you know of somebody who's developed this kind of plurality of thought, plurality of belief, and combining that with an appreciation of the poverty of disbelief, poverty of the being out of faith, I would love to learn more from such a person. But it is very important for me to be loyal to what it is that is my life, that is my point of view, what fits my experience. I don't want to join any community, despite all the riches and the benefits and spiritual gifts of that community. I don't want to join any community or go back to any community in a dishonest way, in a way that is not loyal to what I have gone through and the things that I've seen, the things that I have problems with. So that's it for now. I might continue this line of thought later on, but for now, I think it's a good place to stop. Thank you.